Well, hello everybody. Um, so today I am doing the interview that I talked to y'all about yesterday. I have my friend Kinnin here, and he's going to talk about his inspirational story, and then we're going to ask him questions and go from there. And so go ahead, Kinnin.
Awesome, thank you. I'm Kinnin. Um, as was said, about to turn 23, and my story. I mean, obviously, we'll get into a lot of the inner child uh, trauma stuff and how that shaped me. But I had, through high school, went through a lot of issues with mental health and started going into psych hospitals. And shortly after that, is when addiction issues started coming up. Started with marijuana, alcohol, escaping those cruddy, shameful feelings, and that progressed as addiction does. It's a progressive disease, and I ended up being an IV methamphetamine user, going through rehabs dozens of times, and I sit here today, a much calmer, more loving, true to myself person. And I'm about to, in 3 days, I'll have 11 months clean off of meth. Yeah. So,
All right, so let's get some questions. I do want to dig more into some questions. So the first one I wanted to ask was, when you think back to your childhood, what kind of emotional environment did you grow up in?
yeah. Well, I think there's risks and protections, right? And the protections I had, where there should be love. You know, Parents divorced when I was 3, and then my mom quickly got with my ex stepdad. And I guess the specifics are less important than the emotions. But I basically had no one to kind of prop up that my self esteem or say, hey, you're a good kid. And as I went through early grade school, like there was a lot of severe bullying, being left out, nobody likes you, that progressed to, more severe, heinous comments like kill yourself, F word, a lot of discrimination there, but a lot of hate and shame coming in, and virtually no one hopping me up, protecting me. And I think a kid that young, me that young, 7, 8, 9 years old, there's no defense
Right,
of what's coming in, especially when there's no support,
right,
right? And so I took on all these messages deep in the core of my soul.
yeah,
Nobody likes me. I'm too much. I'm annoying. And I guess we'll get it more into the questions, but I've carried those into adulthood,
mhm,
and that's been remarkably destructive.
yeah. And you said what age did that start in?
That bullying, I mean, really kindergarten, first grade.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
and I'm in the psych class. I'm doing my presentation later, probably on play.
Yeah.
But even the social dynamic that was created,
Yeah.
I would get picked last, and I would score all the touchdowns. And I know, even saying that, I feel like, oh, that's the reason did meth or went to the psych hospital. And it's like those were the earliest continued patterns of, no matter what I do, I'll never be good enough.
Mm.
Right? And that young, there's no, like, I can go back and, are you really going to tell a 5, 6, 7-year-old, no, come on, you're enough. You just got picked last. Like
Right.
all I knew to do was take that as my identity.
Right. And these are what we talked about yesterday on the video called cognitive distortions. And so these are thinking patterns that depression creates. And I've been through it myself, and I've spoken on here about my story as well. And I've gone into a lot of detail on that on that video. And I've also yesterday I spoke about cognitive distortions where people like myself tend to say I'm too broken, no one could really want me, or I'm too damaged, to be in a healthy relationship. I'm unlovable. These are just, they're not reality. It's just deep global beliefs that we begin to repeat within ourselves, which after many, many years of doing that, then it becomes a part of your identity, of who you think is your identity. And then I think that's how things start spiraling for children, especially as they get older. But yeah, so then let's go on to the second question. Um, were there emotions that felt easy to express growing up and others that you felt you had to hide or push down?
Um, Absolutely. I mean, I as I was receiving these messages, like I said, that went to my core, there was no outlet. So anger, there was no place for that. Sadness, no place for that to go. I think that's why later on I ended up having having to really act out because there was no place for these to go. They just went inside into my
Right.
core. Um, yeah, so everything really. And I
Okay.
was I was receiving all these negative messages. I'd get home and uh, it'd be 6 p.m. and I'm 8, 9 years old and I'm playing, NCAA football 11 on PlayStation, and that was like my day, just getting bullied at school, home, created this dynamic of walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
Um, but I do, and I mean, questions will probably get more into that, but I do think part of what, forgive me, part of what made dealing with those messages so hard later in life
Yeah.
was it doesn't make sense for
Yeah.
me sitting here almost 23 to believe all these negative messages that are occurring. And I do think now I'm able to challenge them,
Okay.
but I don't think that's a purely cognitive process, right? Because I really am dealing with that wounded child deep inside,
Okay.
and I'm able to offer him, uh, offer myself love, that little child love over and over, because it wouldn't have been just saying, "Oh, you're worth it. Oh, you're a good person." Like it would have been continuous love. That's the reparenting idea.
Okay.
Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
Do you think, because I know you spoke a little bit about hiding yourself, suppressing yourself, and as much as you could, you learned to hide and to be quiet. And do you think that your brain learned that hiding was a way to stay safe?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, like the origins of that, like I said, was the bullying, and the quieter I could be within the household,
Yeah.
the less stuff would go down, and that, like I said, went to my core and grew
Right.
in high school and adulthood, to where now even posting on my Instagram emotional, meaningful stuff,
Right.
hours later, I'm like, no, I need to take this down.
Oh my gosh, I go through
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, we talked about, right?
Like, okay, so I put up I made a TikTok like in 2020, and put up my story, and I spent like 2 nights doing that.
Mhm.
And you know how TikTok is only like 60 seconds, I think, that you have, and then you have to
Yeah.
like restart another. So it took a long time. Anyway, so after I did all the work, I put my story out there. Next thing you know, I'm just like, I just need to take it down. I just can't. I didn't do it right, or I'll find any excuse to try to make for it to be a reason of why I need to take it down. And so yeah, I went through the same thing.
And I mean, you can tell me, your experience, but for me, it's not just, oh, I said this thing wrong or sounded weird here. It's a belief that in the nervous system is like not being safe, like I'm threatened. My very soul is threatened
Yes.
by simple exposure, right?
Right. That's exactly, I would describe the way I felt. even though I didn't realize it at the moment,
Yeah.
looking back right now that we're talking about it, I remember feeling threatened because I felt exposed and vulnerable. And for me, vulnerability has always been difficult. Like I used to never cry. Like I used to make sure like to try to hide me crying or not cry in front of people. And because to me, I felt like vulnerability for me was weakness. And if people knew that you were vulnerable or weak, like that was a way for them to be able to hurt you even more. So,
Which there was a time when that was true in every way.
right,
To be vulnerable, I mean, I was incapable of defending myself, both mentally and physically,
right,
at an age where I was extremely vulnerable. So
Right.
I don't know. For me, no wonder,
right,
right? Like being exposed emotionally to things that can even still hurt me today, right?
Right.
Like certain facts being out can harm my reputation,
Right.
and those thoughts are probably distorted.
yeah,
But there was a time when that was just like the core of my being was exposed.
right. And see, in complex PTSD, it says it's when long term trauma trains your nervous system to stay in survival mode, making it hard to feel safe and trust others or fully relax even after the danger is gone. So here we are, we're not in danger anymore. In 2020, I wasn't in danger, but
Right.
I
It was
felt like
yeah.
I felt threatened because of the exposure that I was basically putting myself out there. And so even though it was not real, it felt so real to me inside that my brain started making up excuses of why I needed to pull those videos down.
Yeah.
And so that was a process that I went through, you know. I guess that's kind of similar to what you
Oh,
went through.
absolutely. I mean, slight intellectual thing here: post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
The definition of disorder in the DSM-5 is something that inhibits your ability to live. I think the implied thing is that the post-traumatic stress is wrong or abnormal.
Right.
I mean, like, good Lord, people, it's a normal response. I mean, it's actually neurobiologically reasonable that when these things happen, your nervous system stuck with it because it was a way to keep myself alive. If I had passed 6, 7, 8 when I had no ability to say, oh, nobody likes you, you're just going through a lot as a kid and you're just
Right.
doing it. If I hadn't gotten at a certain point to just blocking those off and defending myself and not sharing anything and numbing, I would have killed myself. I mean, I almost did. Like, it would have been
Same.
so bad.
Mhm.
And so that's like a
Right.
reasonable response, right?
Right.
Like, I have a very, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, an incredibly sensitive system, like
Yeah.
feeling emotion-wise. And so for me, it might be more pronounced in the body and in the psyche when these things
Yeah.
happen than I would. But
I kind of see that as more of a one of your abilities, though. I see that as an ability, though. I don't see that as a weakness. I see that as a strength. And because not a lot of people can allow themselves to be in that mentality or that emotional what do you call it? Just be able to be emotional
Presence.
and yeah, and
Yeah.
be genuine, be emotional, be here in the now. And so I think I see it, but I think we just have to restructure our thoughts to remind ourselves that what we think are threatening or what we think is something that's a weakness within us is actually an actual strength.
Isn't it amazing too? Because when I've looked at your YouTube videos and hear you talk about it, I see an incredible amount of strength and courage and sense of honorable altruism and a real effort and beginning of making a real difference in people's lives. It's amazing how I hope you
Thank
receive
you.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we hold ourselves to very different
Yes, absolutely.
standards.
And which is why the reason why we're both here today is because we both want to make change in people in the world and help people. And I know for me that's I'm very passionate about that. And I think that I kind of I kind of don't give myself enough credit, but and sometimes we don't do that with each other. Or like we don't see it within ourselves, but we can see it in somebody else. It's so easy for me to see it in somebody else, but it's hard for me to see it within myself.
And I do think even seeing it externally means that it's real.
Yeah.
You see that in yourself. I see it in myself.
Yeah.
It's just easier because I don't necessarily have to worry about your safety on a day-to-day basis, right? And protecting your psyche,
right?
You know, because I don't know. The Hermetic principles are very interesting about the mental universe,
right?
But
so, how have you been able to slowly teach yourself that it's safe to be yourself now?
That's a process, and I know that's a cop-out answer, and that pisses me off, you know, even to a certain extent now.
Yeah.
But there was a time before I knew how to do that, right? And maybe I even knew that it would be better for me to express, and maybe there's certain spaces where I'm safe.
Right.
But I just didn't do it, couldn't do it, wouldn't do it. And so I had this long line of destruction behind me. And then I had, you know, the exact circumstances of how I got about a month and a half clean off of meth. I mean, I've done that dozens of times. Right. But I ended up kind of taking a different path, and I ended up at this thing called the Deep Waters Experience, which it was about a weekend, but at its core, it's about getting down to that deeper, you know, like I was talking about, that 7-8-year-old.
Right.
And for someone like me, it's easier to put on display, and this is some sort of, I guess, sick psychological trick, but it's easier to put on display all these like really traumatic, I mean, they're not, I don't do that, like they are traumatic, and they're like beautiful boy movie type crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Because it just feels more justified for the way I feel. But anyway, in May, there was this moment where you were writing a letter to yourself, or that youngest version of yourself. That's a big idea in that inner child psychology, is going to the youngest version the first time you felt that way.
Okay.
And I was writing a letter to 7-8-year-old Josh, is what I was going by at that point.
Yeah.
And it was real, but there was a certain amount of like, what am I doing here? Like I'm becoming an adult. Why am I writing to I was just picked last on the school. They don't like me. And we all go through that, whatever, all these. And I didn't and couldn't. And probably it was a good thing I didn't gain full access to that pain, because that's the pain. And I think it's in the universal subconscious, that pain that is driving all of these negative behaviors. If I had fully accessed that, I mean, it's a little dark. I promise you I would have blown my brains out.
Yeah.
Like I just couldn't, especially with how sensitive my system is.
Yeah.
But I cried. And at that time, it's funny, I cry almost every day now to various degrees. But then I was not, maybe every couple of weeks, just getting totally overwhelmed. But I cried, and I felt the difference between what I've done most of my life, which is project my pain onto a woman.
Yeah.
Or give the love that was never mine to steal from myself and put it on a woman.
Right.
And that gets very icky. People get hurt. But I cried in a way that was to my core and felt that pain. And I guess that was the door beyond. I went through a lot of treatment beyond conceptual inner child work, which is a necessary gateway to deep spiritual soul inner child work. And what I say when I mean that is, there's scientifically, you can either talk about a certain neurons in my nervous system that have triggered, that come from that younger time, right? That are triggered by stimuli that are similar to how I felt then. Maybe I'm getting a little lost in the weeds then, but the conception, the spiritual idea, I think is just as powerful. There is that 7-8-year-old little Joshy, as I say.
I agree. Yeah. I completely agree with that. And I've done inner child work myself. Even during meditation time, I did inner child work. And during that time, what was happening then, which I didn't know that at the time, but I was, what's the word? I cannot believe I don't remember the word. But it's basically you're just vomiting everything from your past and all your trauma and all the pain that you've gone through. And I went through,
Release.
yeah. And so I went through months and months of just in my bedroom floor, just crying and just kind of releasing everything that I'd held for till mid 30s, you know. And before I was a person that I didn't cry much. Like I said, it wasn't, or at least I did, but not in front of people. And and even then, I just tried to like be strong, be hard, you know. And now it's like when you mentioned that, now you allow yourself to cry and feel the emotions. And now I allow that. And sometimes I'm just like I feel like I'm too emotional still. Like
Judgment.
yeah, I'm judging myself. And so I just think to myself, okay, you're like, especially if I start crying like in on the one of my videos or something that I've done, I'm just like, crap, here I go again. I was trying not to cry, you know, and I try to, you know.
I have a question
Uh-huh.
about that. If you feel like you had gone and said, hey, you're in your 30s now, why are we crying about some shit that happened, pardon me,
Yeah.
some stuff that happened when you were, you know, a child? Like, stop it. You're being too much.
Right.
If I'm buying into and we're buying into that there is that inner child in you,
Right.
could you, people did do it. They said, hey, stop, shut up, you're being too much.
Yeah.
Any healing that was beginning or could have happened would have snapped right back, you know? And so even though I'm about to come up on 11 months, there's 3 or 4 months ago is when a huge shift happened. And I know you didn't know me before that, but there's like, I mean, I am probably still a little fidgety now, but it's funny, you said to me a couple weeks ago, my energy was more settled than classmates.
Yeah.
And I went, what the hell is she talking about? Or just like, because my identity is so wrapped up in that I'm just this too much, you know, anxious person. And that, I should probably stop shaking the table. That change didn't happen overnight. And I guess that does suck because I want to be better now. I want to stop feeling pain now. Yeah. But it's my nervous system. The beauty in that is not a victim blaming, right? Like things happened to me. People treated me ways they shouldn't have at a time where no child deserves to be treated that way, right? But now it's my nervous system, and the cruddy thing is it takes time to heal, but I'm doing the healing. Like it's me. It's that personal responsibility. If the issue, maybe not the problem, lies within me, then so does the solution, right? And I'm not totally alone in that. Like we're having this conversation, right? There's love, but at the end of the day, when I was having those same experiences of crying for weeks, I mean, I would come to class and then I'd go home and I'd just start crying, right? Because I'd open those gates. And I'd maybe access those at certain points before I got this long-term sobriety. Yeah. And I would hit it with shame because I don't want to be crying, right? It's weird, you know?
Well, that's what we've told ourselves.
Right, yeah.
Those are the cognitive distortions, that it's weird to cry all the time.
And even on a legitimate social level,
right?
It is like that's a season of life,
right?
You know, but it was very intense, and I'm a very touch means a lot to me. It's part of the feel system, and I would just kind of go and offer love, and I was in that pain, that heal it to feel it, and that's, I mean, like I said, about to be a year 23. Like there's a lot of life left, and that's a distortion that I'm trying to calibrate of my life is just beginning. But that can happen. I mean, my mom changed her life 45, 50. And was a beautiful one today, about 60.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
So, okay. So the other one that I wanted to ask was, did you feel like you had a safe space or person where you could be fully yourself as a kid?
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think that's why it's been so hard for me, but I've done it. you know.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's a little questions more in the part 2 or part 3 that could kind of naturally go on there.
Okay, and then so how have you begun creating that sense of safety for yourself now, being that you didn't have that growing up?
I mean, again, kind of that time thing, which I believe in those moments I've created a container of safety.
Okay.
Created a space for myself to feel those emotions and not need to go externally, right? It's a lot easier and a lot quicker and a lot less painful to go to a drug or a partner. But I've began training, I think that's a great word, training myself to that the safety is within me. Okay. And that started to pay dividends, right? Like I'm not the very things that I was going to that were helping with the short-term pain ripped apart my life. Yeah. I mean, I was having a conversation with my sister a few months ago.
Yeah.
And she said in 2022, when I was 19 years old, and I feel like I could tell my addiction substance use history after 2022 in its entirety. And she said to me, it's not that I thought you were going to die. It's I had consigned you were dead. I was over it.
Yeah.
You were going to die.
She'd accepted it.
Yeah. Thank you. And I didn't get clean for another 3 years. That's the level. And my sister's a very loving person. My family's very loving. That's the level of destruction I went to.
Yeah. That must have been really hard for her.
I can only imagine.
To have to accept that your sibling, they're just gone.
Right. Yeah.
And in a sense that she didn't believe that you were going to come back from that. So I think it's amazing that she's able to see that now in you, that you're not gonna die, and that you're gonna make it, and you're gonna make a difference.
I do want to talk about maybe a moment, because I think you had asked a question about the moment when maybe that started to shift, and I think each and every person can have that have their own version of that. But for me, addiction, shame grows in the darkness, right? And I think even our model of how to heal addiction and shame or just complex PTSD is okay, wait. And I've even kind of maybe hinted at it unintentionally. You go over here in your corner for a year and you heal your negative thoughts and your inner child, and then you come back and be a productive member of society, which is the issue. I mean, it's BS, right? That's how that shame grows. And I was at a festival that was much more focused on, it's called Medicine for the People. It was much more focused on healing. And I remember it's this herb called hape, which is not psychoactive. It's like a tobacco. Okay. And I took this, and it's an idea that it's kind of an ancient medicine. And I began crying, weeping. And these 3 or 4 strangers, and this I don't know, I guess it is a little weird, but there's plenty of opportunities like this, I think, in life, especially if we reach out to one another. These people just 3 of them hugged me.
Yeah.
And this girl said to me, "You don't have to be anyone here. We love you for who you are." And that was public healing, triggered accepting.
To me, that felt like, wow, it was it had to have been a sense of relief for you too.
It was unbelievably cathartic. I cried for an hour. It was incredible, out of body. And it was just out of nowhere. I was in a tent at this festival and took this tobacco. I'm literally 2 or 3 days clean off of meth, and I have this experience of just people loving me.
Yeah.
Not the people that were supposed to love me or a therapist that was, and that
just strangers, you didn't know them.
No, yeah. We were at this festival that was based in, love, but it was incredible.
Wow.
I haven't thought about that.
But yeah, so we talked about some of I think your coping mechanism, you've kind of touched base on the coping
Yeah.
mechanisms and that you learned early on, and like the shutting down, staying, you said you also used to stay busy. I did that too. The people pleasing that showed up later in life. Do you want to expand on that a little bit more, or?
Yeah, I think the people pleasing has been later 19, 20, 21 behaviors. I guess I always kind of did that. I just kind of hid. And in high school is when I went to those depression, I started cutting. Those behaviors, I guess, became a little more extreme, but they were just internalized shame. And then that grew to methamphetamine, IV use, but it was all going back to not, I don't even think it's, let's go address the inner child work, right? Because it's just I extend that love internally to myself rather than, oh my God, I had to face this broken piece, right? Like that separates this wounded part of me instead of taking it in.
So I know that you said you learned to numb and your shame, and we talked a little bit about shame already through the self-destructive behaviors. And I wanted to just say that I know I've talked about it in the book already, but I wanted to tell the audience that we got to remember that shame comes from internalizing the trauma. So the child believes the trauma says something about who they are and not just what happened to them. So it tends to develop as a survival adaptation, and it comes from unmet emotional needs and unmet emotional invalidation. And so that's something that I have myself gone through as well, where the shame was like super intense, but I always kept it to myself and really didn't let people know that I felt shameful. I just knew that I felt it inside. And I think that when I went through that release, all of that just kind of went with it, where a lot of the shame just, I was like, there's no reason for me to feel shameful for something that, that I didn't cause on myself, And I guess that was, for me, that's kind of a sort of a self-love, being compassionate towards yourself and saying, hey, you don't need to be shameful because, you got to think about, when did this start for us? When we were kids. We didn't have a choice we couldn't pick our parents, we couldn't pick our step parents, and so, we have to kind of learn to be a little bit more, I guess, compassionate with ourselves.
I think that love, reparenting is the idea. Love over time and consistently, right? Not love around just being loved and hugged once at a festival or having a powerful psychedelic experience, which is very common. And that's important, right? But that part of that child wasn't going to be healed by, oh my God, I love you so much, let me walk away for 20 years, right? That child needed love consistently, regardless of whether I got the job or I feel good right now.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I talked about in my story was my first hug came at 11 years old. And that was done through by my mom. My mom hugged me for the first time at 11 years old, and we were in a counseling session, and the counselor forced her to hug me because she found out that I'd never been hugged before, and I didn't even know what a hug was or felt like. And the counselor was just shocked. So when you said that, I was like, yes, like we had unmet emotional needs, and we were in a lot of emotional invalidation within the family nucleus, I guess. And so I think that only intensifies the negative self-talk and all of that. So I definitely agree with that. How is stress or conflict handled? Maybe you've already answered this one.
I think the conversation has flowed naturally too. in the
Okay,
framework.
so do you feel like so
That the question.
do you feel like addiction became a way to regulate? We already went through that.
Yeah.
We already got past that. Yeah, how things are forming in childhood. Okay, we already got that. Was there a moment where you realized it wasn't just substances? I think we've touched base on this too.
That moment where I kind of.
Okay. Do you think younger you was trying to protect yourself in some way through those behaviors? Yeah, we already got through that. Has mentioned your past stories of feeling defined by it. How has understanding your past helped you reframe your story instead of feeling defined by it?
Well, I think even today, recently, like these very, it's easy to see 30,000 feet and maybe from another person's point of view. Right, like I got a job today and it's a really incredible
Opportunity,
opportunity, and I had another one scheduled tomorrow, and I was able to celebrate through showing myself love throughout the months, and I will continue to do so. I was able to celebrate that, but
Okay.
this brain, this complex PTSD, right, that is
Mhm.
trained when I need to feel shame over canceling the interview tomorrow, right? And that just for a moment sucked all the energy, the celebration for myself. Like I
Yeah.
do deserve a gold star for
Right.
myself and stepping into that, right? And when I'm able to look at it less as, yes, I am in today, but when I'm able to look at it from a greater point of view than I just got this job and I'm feeling shame over this one. I mean, I see my story as I took in these messages of shame at a very young age, and
Mhm.
parts that are not fully healed and integrated. And so when I'm going around life very anxious or in class very anxious, it's a nervous system that for a long time never learns to be safe,
Mhm.
right? And I'm still living with that today, and I'm able to see myself as a traumatized yet healing person, someone that was in very unsafe situations.
Mhm.
And extend compassion, right? Because I could say, oh, you idiot, well, you just got this job. Why are you worrying about this one? Or whatever situation that
Right.
might manifest. Because it's really rarely about the situation that's
Right.
occurring,
Mhm.
and more so this wounded, on edge system, and how
Yeah.
can I extend love and understanding. And when I'm able to see my story from that point of view of compassion,
Yeah.
I'm able to.
Yeah, I would say that I've kind of been doing the same for myself. Um, I was also wanting to ask what helped you believe healing was possible.
I think that's not a clean cut, oh my God, healing is possible, right? Because in my own story, when I entered inpatient treatment 38 times,
Okay.
right? And dozens more outpatients, dozens more sober livings. And in a way, I did have a lot of privilege to be able to continue to do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a lot of evidence that people that don't go through our current healthcare systems, which are addiction for profit, have better results. But that's more social commentary, I suppose. But I think I extended myself grace, improved myself with time, changing results in my life, a balance of recognizing that and extending grace.
Okay.
And I've proven that to myself over time, and will continue.
So 38 times, have you heard of the story of, I think it's Michael Jordan, where he was like the worst at basketball from when he started, and like he tried I don't know how many times, and he just didn't.
Michael Jordan, I appreciate even that.
And so I often remind myself. I remember my operations manager brought that up, and she says, the Michael Jordan story? And I'm like, no. And then she told me, And I'm like, no way. He's like, yeah, he tried and tried and tried and tried and tried and tried and tried until he finally made it.
Yeah.
And so when you said 38 times, it's like, how many times um, I've, you know, try to get out there, put myself out there, and then I'm like, no, how am I gonna do it?
Yeah.
And then, I go back out there and I try to get myself out there again, then I say no, and I let that fear creep up, or it doesn't go through for whatever reason, or my procrastination kicks in, and I begin to procrastinate a lot, and then I just don't get it done, and I'm just like, okay, is it gonna take like 300 times for me, 100 times for me, or what?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I kind of relate to what you said 38 times.
Yeah. Something you said to me a couple weeks ago is that the highest vibration is authenticity.
Yeah.
And talking about those times that you've put yourself out there, that I put myself out there,
Mm-hmm.
It may not be what we would judge, or even other people might judge as this perfect product, what I wanted to put out there. Right? But it is authentically human to struggle with expression or existence, and
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that struggle, recognizing the anxiety that I know we've even both had speaking
Right.
today, right?
I mean, today
Yeah.
I'm nervous. I know you're nervous. We're both nervous about it.
But still showing up authentically, even
Yes.
if the words aren't out every time perfectly. I'm authentic and standing in myself.
Right. Me too.
Yeah.
I like that. But yeah, so I would say, as far as for perfection, that's one of my, like, I always want everything to be perfect, and if it's not, I feel like it's, oh my god, I got to take it down, or I harshly criticize myself, like, that's just I don't know if, I guess that'd be considered a flaw, that I always want everything to be perfect, to the point that if it's not perfect, I don't want to move. I don't
Yeah.
want to move forward, and it has to be. And people are like, no, you don't wait till it's perfect. You start something just raw and authentic, and then you just kind of let it play out, and then eventually you can get better at it. And so even the videos that I was rewatching, my videos a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to take them all down, but I was like, okay, I heard other people that said that their first few videos are like horrible, and that they got better at it, and I'm just like, okay, Jessica, just be patient with yourself, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I was like, okay. But yeah, so I completely agree with that. Not everything has to be perfect and stuff. So
I mean, and then the question comes, what is perfect?
Right.
It is the perfect expression. I mean, that almost undercuts the point of authenticity and pain and inner child work, But
so what has been the biggest mindset shift during these 10 months of sobriety?
Almost 11 now.
Oh, almost 11, yes. You're what, like a day off, or a day shy?
About 3 days shy, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not
Maybe
bad.
22nd. I think the point that, I keep coming back to now, and I keep coming back to in my soul, it is one, not measuring myself, but by length of sobriety.
Okay.
The biggest key I found in sobriety, and I still have a drink 2 or 3 nights a week, right?
Mhm.
And just be social, but
Yeah.
not shooting methamphetamine
Mm-hmm.
naturally clears the soul and the brain. And quite frankly, I'm very fortunate to have done what I've done for 4 years straight and still have a brain.
Yeah.
And dare I say, a competent brain, and people were hard on me, and I've been hard on me for years.
Right.
And extending myself grace, not just conceptually, not just saying, oh, I'm extending myself grace, but also just in the moment when I get down on myself, be down on myself, get down on yourself for the video, right? Just extend a little bit of love. Like we're doing, there's a lot of people that are not having these kinds of conversations, or able to see that part of themselves.
Yeah.
And
especially at your age, I feel like you're what, 20?
About to be 23 in a
20,
month. Yes,
23. So you're 22. You're my son's age.
Yeah.
So my son's not self-aware, and I wish that he was self-aware, more self-aware than he is, but I'm just praying. I think you mentioned something about
Comparing time or measuring myself by the time, but more measuring myself by I'm here, love, how can I improve? How am I already perfect in this moment? How am I exactly where I need to be?
okay.
Not this idea of once I get a year, once I get 6 months, once I get 3 months or what have you, then I'll be okay. Right? Because then I'm stealing from the present moment and I'm stealing from the future, fueled by a misunderstanding of the past.
Yeah. You did mention something about, and it is by reparenting myself over and over when I go to these negative places, right? And I wanted to kind of ask if you could give examples of how you're doing that. How are you reparenting yourself?
Yeah, so my car is a sanctuary, and a sanctuary just in where I allow myself to do certain things, like feel pain. There was a season of very sad songs, and I would go to these like dark, brokenhearted places.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I didn't feel dark and brokenhearted.
Yeah.
Probably the opposite. I allowed myself to go there for sometimes hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Like I would be in the most raw form of pain.
Okay.
Right. And that had a lot to do with this relationship with a woman that I put my safety in.
Mm-hmm.
She was my safety at certain times. Mm-hmm. And then that I ended that to value myself, to allow myself to grow, to do things like this, to do student government like I'm doing, like get out in the community.
Right.
And I'd be crying and I would be present in that, be present in what's happening, right? And that's painful. Pain is painful.
Right.
And allowing it to go as long as it needs. And I think the difference there, as opposed to depression, internalizing that I am something, right? Which keeps me stuck in a state of a lower vibration. Mm-hmm. I'm in the very real pain and living in it and experiencing it. And the reality is that life is not pain. Life is life. So when I go through that, which sounds great, but when I go through that pain, it will end and it will return. But I'm able to experience the love and the connection. So I guess, but an example of what I would do is just hold that little child,
your inner child,
conceptually, spiritually, and just let him weep.
Yes. It's crazy that it's sometimes that simple, or it can be, it sounds simple. That's what I should say. It sounds simple, but in actuality, it's been very difficult for a lot of us, including myself, to be able to just allow my inner child to just cry it out, and just from all the pain. And for me, I journaled everything. Like I wrote down all my pain, who hurt me, what they did to me. But that was my way to release all of it and just allow myself to cry through me writing, tears all over the pages, And that was just a way for me to be able to release all of it that I had held in for so long. But just the crying part and allowing yourself to feel the feelings of the pain, of the hurt that people have, things, unjust things that people have done to you, or just pain from relationships that just didn't go, great, and that you were hoping better, you were hoping that it would go good or whatever. But just allowing that, and allowing, even like for me personally, what I went through from the age of 2 to 13, allowing my little girl to just cry about what happened to me and how, I felt like nobody was really there for me, which
I would say nobody was.
Yeah. Yeah. And so being able to allow myself to feel that and cry about that, even at 38, I'm crying about something that, allowing myself to cry about something that happened to me from, at 5 or 2 or, 4 years old, So, yeah. So then, that's a good example. So allowing reparenting is kind of basically what you're saying is allowing yourself to, that inner child to cry it out.
Yeah.
Feel the pain of.
And also love as they cry it out. not just, oh my God, go in a corner and
Yeah.
expel,
Yeah.
but let me extend love and compassion and appreciation to that I've been able to live this life while also carrying this inside.
Right.
That's strength.
Oh yeah, that having compassion towards yourself in that way. I like that. So what would you say to someone watching who feels like their childhood or past has already defined their future?
Well, I mean, I know that I've said to myself, or what people have said to me, take it easy on my friend, man. Take it easy on myself. I mean, I'm so hard on myself, and I think it's beyond this idea of just like compassion, but also active love.
Yeah.
Right. And I think most great ideas are simple, and if embodied, I can extend love and patience, and that the issue, the tension is within myself, and that's freedom. I mean, yeah, it's not simple, it's incredibly difficult, but it's just as difficult as my soul allows it to be. And that's not just, oh my God, I'm going to be better now, let me just rise, but the over time, love, compassion, showing up for myself
consistently,
proving to my nervous system, which is that conceptual inner child, that it is safe now. Right.
That's what I was going to talk about a while ago. I was looking for it and I completely forgot about it. But so basically, one of the things that I noticed that I spoke about on the video yesterday too was being in so many bad relationships. For me personally, when I finally got in a good relationship, I just always felt like, when is the shoe going to drop kind of thing. And I learned that basically it's just your nervous system is not regulated yet, so you're still in survival mode, right? And yes, and so it literally took me like a year and a half to 2 years for me to feel safe and to trust my husband now, because of what I'd been through in the past. And he went through his phase as well, because he'd also been through his stuff. But it goes to show that the nervous system has to have a consistent feeling of safety for a long period of time before it can start to feel safe and begin the healing process. So even after the year and a half or 2 years, I feel like that's when my healing process started. And because I was no longer in survival mode, my nervous system switched over from survival mode to a regulated nervous system. And so now that I felt safe and I felt at peace and I felt like everything was just stable, I felt like now I could start to begin to heal some of the relationship issues that I'd had in the past. And so that is so important that people remember that nervous system will always, I mean, if you've been through your trauma, will be in that state it'll take time. It all takes time. I don't know. I mean, even now, do you feel that you're still in survival mode in some things?
Not in survival mode. In some things, absolutely.
Yeah. In some things.
And I still carry my hips, my back.
Yeah.
are all, and I'm starting to, even this morning, I started doing like no yoga, like you do, someone on the screens like do this, like I just was naturally moving with my body, giving myself permission, and it's incredible to release the feeling, pleasurable experiences of just releasing hip tension. And there's a lot of science on the vagus nerve and how that relates to the hips, and that's the scientific expression of the process.
So is there any other message that you'd like to share with people that are struggling with addiction or trauma that you'd like them to hear?
I mean, I guess at the risk of being cliche and cheesy, but I mean, We're truly all in this hurling rock through space together.
Yeah.
And I think there's people out there that are genuine and safe and loving, and people out there that are not,
That are
but
not,
we're
yeah.
here.
Yeah. And like I've always said, I feel like we can thrive better when we're being authentic. And I feel like we can actually open up doors to higher frequencies or higher or better things in our lives through being, high vibrational and just being positive and authentic and loving and helpful towards others. If we can, inspire somebody or help somebody in some way, I think that it's always good to try to do that, for somebody. Reach out your hand to somebody, whenever they feel alone, or because and sometimes, even people won't even talk about them feeling alone or feeling like people that, there's plenty of times that I felt I was misunderstood, or, I feel like nobody could understand what I was going through. So, and I felt very alone. And sometimes we keep that to ourselves. And that's why it's always nice to be, it's good to be nice to people, strangers, because you don't know what they're going through within themselves. And just be kind and try to reach out your hand when you can. And
Yeah.
and
I
be
just
there.
try to embody. I want nervous systems to relax and hearts to open when I walk in the room.
Yeah.
And I
That's
can't
awesome.
always do that, but I can embody that
Yeah.
on the most consistent basis that I can.
That's pretty awesome. So yeah, that is Zen's story,
Beautiful.
and I hope that helps somebody out there. And if y'all can resonate with any of what we talked about, put it in the comments. And yeah, let's talk to y'all another day. Bye.
I'm glad you had me.
Oh, thank you for being here. Okay.